There is strong evidence that you are born into one of the types that we are about to explore. When your particular focus of attention is engaged and feelings of well-being and comfort are accessed, you're drawn toward this aspect of life and unconsciously a bias sets in. Preferences and prejudices start to be more pronounced and patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors start to manifest. Over time, we develop these biases toward and away from certain types. The Enneagram can explain this structure of our reality, which can help us make sense of this box we live in, and in many ways, not get boxed in by our unconscious patterns. And so, we begin the exploration of the 9 types. Type 1, the reformer. Ones are frequently called the perfectionist or the reformer. They belong to the body center, while their tendencies and ways of thinking makes it seem like they are in the head center. There's an inner persistence to make the world a better place, and they want to make right whatever they think is not functioning in a way it should. When they do not get what they want, they tend to suppress the anger, which manifests itself in frustration and irritation, while searching for ways to make amends. They are sometimes called the perfectionists, which can be good in certain instances, and once it gets overboard, it will pinch the nerves of those who are acquainted with them. Well, in early childhood, what makes the Enneagram so palatable is its ability to explain how and why each individual behaves a certain way, and what are some of these underpinnings. The type 1 child can usually identify with a parent, usually a father, who is highly critical or put great emphasis on doing things in a specific way, and when this standard was not met, the criticism leveled against the young child was present and sometimes severe. Where the ones eventually grow up to be unresourceful is if they grew up with being criticized, even if the child believed they did their best, but was told that it was never good enough. This fixation on never being good enough stretches into adulthood, and they find it difficult to be settled in a place of good enough, even if sometimes it was already great. Conversely, a resourceful one child would have experienced a healthy upbringing with validation and encouragement. The two extremes in upbringing have a deep impact on how the one child behaves. Some of the strengths of the one: they take great satisfaction in assuming responsibility and enjoy a peaceful order of tasks and events, thus ensuring nothing goes wrong in a world where unpredictability is constant. It is easy for ones to see what is wrong or insufficient in a given situation, as well as to see how things can be improved. Ones may come across as demanding or picky, but it's simply hard for them not to have things done in a certain way. Ones say what they mean and find it very difficult to express something which is not in alignment with their values and beliefs. Hence, they are straightforward and respectfully keen to ensure whatever seems out of line gets straightened out. They have high expectations of especially themselves by maintaining high standards in areas of quality, values, honesty, articulation, design, structure, process, and doing one's best. Ones hold themselves and others accountable to meet these important standards. They are honest, want things to be right, and have high integrity, and maybe that's why the ones are also called the good person. Ones feel uncomfortable embellishing stories about themselves or their achievements. They remain humble, persevering, and strive to make things better without any need for attention. Some of the limitations of the one: well, if their own principles are violated by others, letting go for ones is difficult. Forgiving becomes a challenge, since their sense of trust and integrity for good work can take another knock by the same person in future. They remain cautious, and it may take a lot to make good once a serious breach, according to their standards, is made. Ones sometimes choose to mop up the dirt that others can't or won't do, as it's tedious and not in the personality of many to be conscientious. It's when ones become pedantic, dogmatic, tense, anxious, and take things too seriously that they become unpleasant to have around. Ones are self-sacrificing and tend to think that problems must be worked on until it's solved. They work like there's no tomorrow. Letting go becomes tough. It is not helped by their thinking that what they do is never quite good enough. It's almost like thinking a bull terrier is unwilling to loosen its grip on something. Ones always believe more could have been done. They frequently feel burdened, taking on too much responsibility, recognizing that no one else will do a good job as well as them. It is a belief that they rather than speak out of arrogance. Ones are self-sacrificing and tend to think that problems must be worked on until it's solved. They work like there's no tomorrow. Letting go becomes tough. It is not helped by their thinking that what they do is never good enough. Think of a bull terrier unwilling to loosen its grip on something. Ones always believe more could have been done. They frequently feel burdened, taking on too much responsibility, recognizing that no one else will do as good a job as them. It is a belief that they have rather than speaking out of arrogance. It also does not come from a place of obsessing about what they have done and what others should have done. Ones are their own worst critic. Before you can point out something about them, they would have already done it many times over. They become frequently disappointed with themselves when expectations are not met. However, if they can't let go, expectations will never be met because of their internal critic. Some reflections for the type 1. Become acquainted with your superego or your inner judge and distinguish it from yourself. Begin to hear this voice as it rather than you. In other words, focus on how the situation has unfolded rather than how you are the cause if things go wrong. Become more accepting rather than trying to make everything perfect. Let go of some of your attentiveness to detail and needing to have everything under control. The world is imperfectly perfect. Because of its imperfection, it's perfect as it is. Learn to identify important from the not so important so that you don't spend too much time on the details of unimportant things and hold up the tasks to be done. Don't rest everything on your shoulders, in short. While you might think that others' contributions are not as great as yours, they can assist you to lighten your load. Last but not least, be open and honest about your vulnerabilities, or you'll forever carry the burden of righteousness, which could be straining and at the same time draining to others around you. Vulnerability builds courage to face your challenges and progressively acceptance of imperfections.